Hello and welcome to this video where we'll go into Plotly Express to do interactive charting. Before we've worked with Matplotlib to do static charts, and that is a really good way to learn about charting and create different charts and then changing a lot of styles to make it more into storytelling. However, when working with charts, you can also make them interactive so that it's possible to hover on different places. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can move the graphs around in real time. This will be quite cool. Let's start with this. We'll go into Visual Studio Code. So here I am in Visual Studio Code. Let's start with creating a terminal. I will increase the size a little bit. And then we'll start with View, V, V, and V because I need a virtual environment. I'll activate this one and bin activate. And then I'll do UV pip install. I will need IPy to work with Jupyter Notebook. I will need Plotly, and in there we have Plotly Express. Then I need something called NB format for showing the Plotly visualization inside of the Jupyter Notebook. This is what I need. Okay, and other things I don't need, I think. So here we go into creating a new file called Plotly Express fundamentals.ipnb. Okay. Choose my Python environment, my virtual environment, and Plotly Express. And here we actually don't need any data because, or we don't need to put in data ourselves because I'll use something that is provided in Plotly Express already. So import plotly.express as px. You can use Plotly graph objects to create a large number, blah, 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 pip install. Yeah, we need to install this one. Okay. So UV pip install, Plotly Express, import plotly.express. You can use Plotly graph objects. Restart this one, run all. Okay, I misspelled this one. UV pip install. Okay, done. Now let's run this one. Oh, it doesn't work. Restart it. Oh, now it works. Okay, good. Yes, module Plotly. Yeah. Express.data. So then I can take dot. You can see there's a lot of different data that we can pick. And the one we pick will be Gapminder. So this is the example data that they have. Module not found, error. No module named pandas. Okay, yeah, we need to install that too. We pip install pandas. Okay, done. So I'll call this Gapminder. And we have gapminder.head. And then we can have gapminder.info. You can see that there's a few columns. There's no null. Okay, great. Then let's work on this one. So I'll focus on the Nordic countries. And we'll have here for Gapminder of country dot is in the Nordic countries are Sweden, Norway, Iceland, Denmark, Finland. So here we'll get a lot of true and false. And then this Boolean mask will use it to filter this Gapminder out. So this means we'll get all the countries that are Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. Okay, great. I'll call this Nordic. Nordic equals to this. And then I will do Nordic. You can see it is like this one. And let me see, I'll have Nordic.head. And then I will do Nordic 2007. This is the latest year in the dataset. So Nordic.query year equals to 2007. Nordic 2007. And it looks like this. Okay, so here you have each year 2007, and here only the year 2007, and we have each of the countries and their respective attributes. So let's also try out Nordic. Nordic.country. Nordic country dot value counts. What do we have here? So we get 12 for each. So it means that we have 12 different years. So 12 points for each of the countries. So what we can do is that we can also pick out the Sweden equals to Gapminder. Country equals Sweden. Okay, so this is only for Sweden. And I'll remove this here. And let's now start with doing some charts. Starting with bar chart. So for standard bar chart, you do px.bar, Nordic 2007. My x should be the country, and I want to compare GDP per cap. I run this one. And now I have an interactive chart. Here, you can see the hover setting. When we are hovering, you can see a value here. You can zoom in if you want. For example, I zoom in here. Double click to zoom out. I can pan it so I can move it around. I can save it as well. Download plot as PNG. New plot. Okay. And then this is a PNG of that plot. Okay. I will do this one. So as you can see, it's quite easy to just create a graph. And yeah, it looks quite okay. However, there's a lot of things. We want to do a lot of different settings. However, this will be quite simple for this one here. So title equals GDP per capita in Nordic can 2007. I'll call this fig. And fig.show to show the figure. And then I can this one. So fig.write HTML. I will call this here interactive figures / GDP Nordic HTML. And this one, and you can see that there's a HTML code here. If I click on this one, this doesn't make sense for me. However, I can open revealing Finder, and I will double click this one. And I'll get into the browser, and you can see my visual here. Quite cool. This is a very standard graph here. So let's continue and see if we can do any customization now. So I'll copy this one. So what I can do is I can set the color based on different attributes that we have. We could set it based on pop, for example. Depending on the population, we get different colors, right? Yellow is the highest according to this color scale. I could change it to country. Then we have discrete values. If I want, I can remove some of them. For example, I don't want Denmark. I click on Denmark. I don't want Finland. I click on Finland. Don't want Iceland. I click on that one. This is some interactive thing you can do. Okay, however, as you know me, when I'm doing storytelling, I want the colors to have meaning more than just different colors to separate bars. So I want it to have a meaning, like, for example, we're working with GDP per capita. Let's see, is it spelled correct? GDP per cap. Okay, now you can see, based on how high it is, you can see different colors for the different bars. However, I don't like this color. It is too colorful. We need to use the colors to make more sense. So we have colors. I want to use the colors sparingly. So what I do is I go into this color picker online. I want to pick, let's see, color picker here. For example, I want this blue here. And you can see different variations of it and different shades. I pick this blue here. What I do is I put in my color map by doing color continuous scale. This will interpolate between two different colors. Pick this color as the high color, and the lower color, I'll pick another one. For example, the 60%, and I run this one. You can see different shades of blue. These are quite similar because the colors are quite similar. However, then this blue falls a little bit into the background. So let's remove the background as well. Let's remove the grid and the blue background. So fig.update layout, paper background color equals to white. And then we do plot background color equals white. And it disappears. So it's a little bit cleaner. And yes, we could move this a little bit away, but for simplicity, I will keep it like this. And then we'll make more customization in later video. So I'll save this figure as well. Fig.write HTML, I will call it number 1. Save it, you can see it goes in there. And one more important thing, since probably you'll work with a repo, and then you should have a git ignore, large, or together if you have several of them, it will become quite large. So let's ignore that one, interactive figures. So this will ignore this folder. Not totally satisfied, but fine for this start here. So let's go into line chart. And fig equals px.line. And for line chart, you need to find that there is a trend, right? And to find a trend, we have, for example, the years for a country, right? So Sweden, x equal to year, y equals to pop. Okay, and then we need to do fig.show. And here you can see the development of Swedish population from 1952, where we're in 7 million, and now in 2007, we're in 9 millions. Okay, so let's continue now to change this line a little bit. We could do the title equals to population in Sweden. And then we could do an F string here, and we could do Sweden of year dot mean. So then we have 1952, and then we do similar for the max. 2, and then I will copy this one here. Call it max. And you can see population in Sweden, 1952 to 2007. And also we have labels equals to dict. So here I'll change the label names. So here we have pop and year, right? So year equals to year. We can do pop equals to population, like this. So let's update a few other things. So now I've updated the labels. I want to remove the background. So let's do it as before. We'll copy this one. Now the background has disappeared. And let's update the trace as well. So fig.update traces. And here I want to change the line. So line is a dictionary where we change the width. Width equals to 3. So it becomes a little bit thicker. And I can add marker. Marker equals symbol equals to, and then you need to have markers on here. So markers equals true. Okay, and it's quite small. So I'll update the size 8. Okay, a little bit bigger. So this is quite nice. We have a starting graph here. It's okay for exploratory data analysis, but for explanatory, then I'll go with either matplotlib or I will have some storytelling with plotly as well. So I'll show you how to do that later on. We'll go into graph objects and we have more customization possibilities. So this is the line chart, and let's do some hover settings. So for doing hover settings, we can do like this. Equals to px dot line, and I will pick the Nordic countries now. And the Nordic countries, I will pick year, and I will pick y equals to GDP per cap. And then we do fig.show. Now you cannot see the difference between them. And also, let's see, GDP per cap. And then we also do color equals to country. Now you can see. So since I picked for each country, you can see that each country have different types of colors. However, these colors are quite hard to see, especially if you have color blindness. Even without color blindness, they melt together a little bit. So bad colors to choose. Maybe you need to use colors sparingly and filter some parts out. Let me put in some title and labels as well. I don't want to type it out, so I paste it from my notes. So here I change this. Let's see, labels. I'll change the year as well. So year is year. And this should be a string per capita, like this. Great. So now let's set some hover setting. First, we can do like this. Fig dot update x-axis. Show spikes equals true. What will happen? This is the spikes. I want it to go across. So spike mode equals to across. And then you can see it goes across like this. But then I need to go down here. I can't hover here. I need to hover on each of the specific ones. So what I do is I will make a hover mode. So fig.update layout hover mode equals to X. I run this one and you can see now it will hover when I move around. Okay, but I do want, you can see that it's jumping, right? It's jumping between each data point. So like a cursor. So spike snap equals the cursor. Run this one. And you can see that now I can move it around continuously. And if you don't want the dash, you can make it solid. So you can do spike dash equals to solid. And then you have a solid line here. And also you can change the colors, of course. Note that I haven't designed this. I just make it. But of course you can design it to look much better and design the hover labels to move to other places, etc. But I'll just show you the options so that you know what you can do in Plotly Express. And then let's do my fig.update layout. Let me change paper background color equals to white. Plot background color. Actually, I need only one of them. Actually, I just need a plot when I'm thinking about it. So plot, background color. Yeah, exactly. So I removed that background there. Okay, better. Let's move on to another chart. Pie chart. If you know me, then I think like pie charts are evil, and that has to do with where I've learned a lot of charting. I've learned it from storytelling with data. From this blog, you can read more about depth to pie charts. This is the author of Storytelling with Data. She really hates pie charts, and she has a lot of good reason for hating pie charts. She talks about why you shouldn't use pie charts, etc. However, I'll just show you that there is a possibility to make pie charts, even if you should decide on making other charts instead. Pie charts are quite common in the wild, and sometimes maybe someone will force you, you have to make a pie chart. Then you need to design how the pie chart should be and use colors sparingly, for example. That is one way to make a pie chart look better, even if it's not good. Okay, so what you do is fig.px.py, Nordic 2007, values equals to pop, and title equals to population of Nordic countries, fig.show. This you can make names equal to country. You get the legend. Then you can update traces. You can do text info equals label plus %. Then you can see the relative population size of the Nordic countries. And the thing is that if the colors are quite similar, then it's hard to compare, like that Denmark is larger than Finland or Denmark is larger than Norway. Also quite hard to compare area with each other. The only thing you can see is that Sweden is quite much larger than the other ones. That's the only thing that you can see from this one. And the pie chart gives you parts of a whole. That is what it can give you as an advantage. Otherwise, think like maybe a bar chart is much better. So let's move on. And now we'll make a Gapminder bubble chart. Bubble chart is quite interesting because you make bubble chart using a scatter plot. You can color code in a lot of dimensions in a bubble chart, like the size of the bubble chart. You can use the XY position of it. You can use hover data. You can use color and other things that you can make. So this means that the bubble chart will encode a lot of information. If you have watched Hans Rosling, he has shown some videos of where he's presenting the population of the world, for example, life expectancy and different countries from 1800 up to 2007. Then he says, start the world engine. And you can see all the bubbles moving from the left side, moving up to the right and to the top side, many of the countries. So let's try to create that one. Have country, continent, year, life expectancy, etc. And I want to do fig equals px.scatter, Gapminder, x equals to GDP per cap, y equals to life expectancy. Fig.show, and it looks like there's a lot of copies. We have, for example, Afghanistan, 12 Sweden, 12 China, etc. So what we do is that we will have comma, animation frame equals year. So I will change it so that it goes from different years. So you can see in 1952, there's quite spread out. There's some that have very low life expectancy and some have higher. This one is very rich. Let's make nation group equals to country. So this one means that each country will move. And then let us change some other things. We will want to make the size. Size equals population, because this will give different size of the balls, right? Or the circles. So now you can see some are larger than others. So let's scale this a little bit. Size max equals 70. You can try another one if you want. Looks good. The big one here should be China, right? And it doesn't tell, so we need to put in the color as well. Color equals to country. Okay. Big one here, China. India, big one also. Could it be? Yes. It's quite hard to compare when you have small values and extremely high values. Then it's hard to compare. So you can use logarithmic scale. So I'll do log x equals true. And now it's easier to compare small values to larger values. So logarithmic scale means that we have 10 to the power of 0, to the power of 1, to the power of 2, to the power of 3, to the power of 4, to the power of 5. We don't need to start from 0 here, so we can do range of x equals to 100, then 100,000. From 100 to 100,000 is the GDP per capita. We do the same thing as before. We do the fig update layout. Copy this one. Fig update layout. Don't remove the hover mode. So I'll run this one. Yes, it's cleaner. Okay. So let us save this one. Or let's run it first to see how it looks run. And you can see everything's moving up. Ah, they're moving past 70. Okay. A lot of countries become older than 70. So we will cut this also. Range Y. For example, 25 to 90. Yes, you can see that these countries are moving up to the right. So it's a lot of countries that are closer in the middle. So let's continue with, I'll say this. So fig.html, interactive figures / gapminder bubble .html. I'll write this one. Let's see. Reading Finder. I want it full screen. Okay, start from beginning. So start the world engine. And you can see everything is moving up to the right. This is quite cool and not very hard to make, but you need to think, do you really need a bubble chart? When can you use it? So don't make bouncing animation of everything. Instead, there's a lot of cases where you don't need it, but if you need to encode many different variables, then you may need it. For example, here the color is the country, right? And we have hover here is helping. And the year is, we have the time dimension we're animating on. We have GDP per capita, which is the x-axis. We have life expectancy is the y-axis, and the population size, which is encoded in the size of the bubble. It's quite a lot of information that is encoded in here, and that's quite cool. So you've watched me create some interactive charts in Plotly, and we've worked with Plotly Express in this Plotly Fundamentals video. In the next one, we'll go into graph objects so that we can go into creating more customizations in our Plotly graphs. So that will be really interesting, and we will go into later on how to do different templates so that we can reuse the styling as well as in we did in the matplotlib video. So this is quite cool, and I hope that you enjoyed these videos and learned a lot. So see you in the next one. Bye.